Hello everyone, welcome back to Grey Brick Creations. My name is Michaela, and today I am going to be making a custom cutting board that is going to be gifted at a friend's wedding. To start this process, I usually make the design on my computer just to see how it's going to look, get everything laid out, get everything centered, and then I'm going to print it onto normal paper. I just have a normal printer at my house, so some of these designs I can't print all on one piece of paper. I have to print them on separate pieces of paper and then cut them out and tape them together to get the whole image as big as I need it for the cutting board. Usually this process takes me a little bit longer, so I spared you guys watching me line up pieces of paper for 3 minutes and just cut to the good parts where I actually got them lined up and taped together. Unfortunately, I had to make this in 3 pieces of paper. I really wanted to get it in 2, but that little bottom part of the circle just wouldn't fit on the pages I was printing. So I have to cut this little section of the bottom off and then tape it back onto my overall design. It was a bit of a challenge getting this checkered design to line up perfectly, but after cutting a few new pieces of paper and reworking the tape a couple times, I got it to line up perfectly. After I got everything taped together, you can see I have the full design on what looks like one piece of paper now. So I'm going to cut around the edges so that it's a circle, and then it's just easier to see how I need to put it on the board to get it centered. A lot of times when I'm putting these on the boards, I just eyeball them to make sure they're in the center. I don't really use any specific kind of technique to get them perfectly centered on the board. Once I get the design centered, I'm going to actually tape it to the cutting board just using some Scotch tape. This ensures that the design doesn't move when I put the carbon paper under the normal paper so I can transfer the design onto the cutting board. This transfer process can be a bit slow. I try to really take my time, make sure I'm making straight lines, make sure I have everything in the right spot so that when I actually burn the design on, it looks good, it looks straight, and there's nothing that looks crooked. This process can take a particularly long time when I have to outline each side of a letter when they're not just letters that are a single line because I have to know where to fill in the space. After I do the first section of tracing, I always like to pull the carbon paper out and just make sure it's transferring correctly, make sure I'm pushing hard enough, make sure the wood's not doing something weird where it's not taking the transfer on correctly. Once I finished up tracing all the letters, now I'm going to go into that checkered design that goes all the way around the cutting board. The checkered part of this board actually took me the longest. I guess when I was laying it out, I didn't think about having to do every single little line for each square, but yeah, that took me a while. Eventually, I decided to use a ruler for some of my lines. It just sped up the process a bit. Once again, I wanted to check and make sure that everything was transferring over onto the board good, and as you can see here, that checkered pattern was coming in pretty clear. Once I get the whole design transferred on, I pull out the carbon paper and pull off the original paper with the design on it. And now it's time to start my favorite part, the actual burning of the cutting board. This process can be a bit slow as well, as I have to fill in every little space, and I like to make sure I do it in detail. I don't want to make any mistakes because once it's burnt on there, you can't take it off. After finishing up the letters, I wanted to switch over to a different burning head. I wanted to switch to one that had a bit sharper of an edge to make these squares in the checkered pattern. I only used this specific burning tip to do the outline of the squares. I was going to use it to fill in the squares originally, but then I decided that something else would probably work better. Now I'm going to switch over to the burning tip to use to fill in the squares. I'm going to take that sharp edge tip off and then put on this other tip that is more like a spoon type shape. It has like a big flat surface, so it's really good for filling in big open spaces. Here you can see me filling in each little square. Kind of what you can't see when I have it sped up, I guess you can see it a little bit, but is how much smoke this actually produces when I'm burning these cutting boards. I actually have a small fan that you can kind of see in the top left corner of my video that keeps everything blowing away from my face. And here you can see the final finished product. I had a lot of fun making this one. Thanks for watching.